Okay, so it's a lovely sunny day in Dresden today, and I've decided to do a bit of work on the Land Rover. So just behind me you can see the new floor for the rear tub and the sills behind there. And I'm just going to do some spraying today because it's quite warm. So that is the first coat. My compressor isn't really working that well. I didn't clean it well enough obviously, but it seems to be, if I hold it close enough to the panels, it seems to be working okay. And yeah, I'll leave that for about 15-20 minutes and then come back to it. I've given it a second coat, but really I went over it a good few times, so I should think there's an equivalent to about 3 coats on there. I think it's thick enough. I'm going to let this dry over 24 hours and then come back and do a clear top coat on it so it shines nicely. It's a bit patchy, as you can see, because the compressor, I've now cleaned the compressor a little bit better than I had done before, so I think it's going to work better on the wheels. But these are the sills, same sort of deal here, 2 to 3 coats. They're looking pretty good, so once they're hardened I'll also put a top coat on there and then I shall fit them. There's one thing that didn't go quite so well today. You can probably see in the reflection there. I put the clear coat on to these 3 sections that I did. This is the rear floor and those are the sills. And I sort of thought when I was doing it, I thought, I doubt that actually the top coat was dry enough from yesterday. And sure enough, when this clear coat dried, it just completely ruined the top coat that was underneath, because it just literally wasn't hard enough. So that is a lesson learned. Annoying really, because I learnt that lesson about 10 years ago, but when I want to do something quickly you just think, oh, it'll be fine. But no, it won't be fine, and obviously I'm going to have to do that all over again. It's quite an amazing texture on the top of this paint, but from well, close up or far away it just looks terrible. So I will have to redo those 3. Well, I'll have to redo the sills because they're terrible, but I think I'll just let this rear floor dry a little bit more and then put another coat on top of it. Okay, so I'm working on the floor today. I haven't got long today, a couple of hours maybe, but just going to work getting the floor fitted. So what I need to do is, there are these sections here on the chassis. There are 6 of those under each cross member here for the floor. There are 3 of these. I've got one of them out at the moment. And what I need to do is, these don't actually fit to the chassis. They have these holes here, and they connect to a piece of rubber, a square piece of rubber. It's about 2 inches thick, 2 inches square, sorry, and connects to the bottom of that plate and just rests on the chassis. So these parts here, they connect to the ribs of the rear floor. 3 go down down the lengthways of the car. So that's what I'm working on today. I've actually made my own floor, so it's slightly different. So I've got to work out a way of connecting these cross members to the bottom of the floor, but I'll work something out. But at the moment, I'm just working on the rubber pieces. So I've got some over here. It's absolutely raining outside today, but I've bought some quite thick rubber. It's probably about 2 to 3 millimeters thick at the DIY store, and I'm just cutting that to size now. I'm actually going to use very small rivets. Here's an idea here. Small rivets which hopefully fit through there, which they do, and I'm going to rivet them in place. So that's the first attempt at fitting the floor. Okay, so I've just cut and riveted in my first piece of rubber here. Well, 2 pieces of rubber actually. I've done one over there, that seemed to have bowed up a little bit, and one over here. I think the rivets have pulled in far enough so that they won't rub on the chassis. But I'm going to put it in now and see if that is indeed the case. Okay, so that is in. The holes pretty much, as you can see, line up on the sides. Might have to drill this one again, but they're pretty close, as you can see. And the rubber, yeah, I think it's fine. You can't really see it under there, but it's pushing up against, well, there's a bit of play in that one, and it's pretty tight on this side, and that's what they look like from the back. two little rivets sticking through. So I'll put some grease on those, but they are aluminium rivets, so it should be fine. And I've also given these 2 or 3 extra coats than the paint that they came with. So. Okay, so I've put the rubber pieces on all of those cross members there. They're all in and they're sitting pretty well actually. I'm pretty pleased with those. So now I'm going to see about putting the floor in and how I'm going to attach these. Okay, so I've just spent a couple of hours with a friend of mine. He helped me putting these screws in on my homemade floor in the back, which has worked out really well. So yeah, it was going to be really difficult doing that on my own because I screwed in the little screws from the bottom and he held the, with a screwdriver from the top. And that, I've had to do them down the middle as well because I'll show you underneath in a minute why that is. But on the basis that I'm going to put a mat over here, a rubber mat, that's not going to be too much of an issue. But the floor is so solid, it's amazing. So underneath, let's have a look if you can see this. Those are the little screws there, which I've attached. Oops, zoomed in there for a minute. Those are the little screws, and then underneath, let me see where you can see that. Yeah, there you can see it just there. You can see the screws that I've put through the floor and into these cross members. Because it's a homemade floor, it hasn't got those 3 ribs that run front to back, and this is the next best thing. But otherwise, I've put the rubber in like I showed you in the last video, and it's worked out to be a really good floor. Painted black underneath, which makes it look brilliant. I'm really pleased with it. That's done. So one other job done. Pretty close to getting it finished for the MOT. Okay, so I'm just making a mat for the rear floor. I've just been to the local building centre and just got some sort of corrugated rubber, which I think will work quite well. It's quite expensive actually. It's 20 euros, which is basically £20 per square metre. So this was just over, well, it's 1.3 by 1 metre, so it cost about 25 euros. But I'm just marking it up. Just made a line down there to get the correct width, so I'm going to cut that to shape, and hopefully with any luck, because it's actually quite thin, it'll fit under this bar here. So we'll see how we get on. So that's done now. I've cut that mat to size and it's worked out pretty nicely. So I've also got it to fit under this bar here, which just finishes it off quite well. I've sort of cut it into that corner there, and there's the hinge on the hinge stop on that side, and yeah, it looks pretty good. Quite pleased with that. It'll also offer some soundproofing as well in the back, because that's quite a big area there. So I'm going to tidy up the wheel wells left and right, and then I'm going to put the seats back on. I'm just giving the rear seats a bit of a clean, giving the good old brush down, because they've been pretty dusty, but they're alright. I can reuse them. They've had a bit of mould on this side, but I will use some some cleaner to get rid of that, and then I'm going to give these surfaces a bit of a clean all around here, and then I think what I'll do this time is, with you can just see them through there, those are the frames for the rear seats that I've just painted. I put red oxide underneath, and then a top coat, a couple of top coats of black gloss. But what I'll do is I'm going to fix the back of those seats to this section here. Maybe use one of these holes, or maybe drill another one. Because I remember when I used to use it, they used to clatter against this this side here. So I'm going to try and improve it a little bit. But I'll only put one bolt in here, which means I can still fold them up. But yeah, I think that'll make a bit of an improvement. Up the back a little bit. I've got quite a lot of this black sealant here from when I put the floor in on the side, so I used a bit you know, a bit of white spirit to clean that up. I mean, actually it needs a bit of a repaint in here, but I've decided to leave the paintwork as it is, really, other than the important parts, or the new parts I should say. So yeah, they look pretty good in there. As I said, I'm going to try and build up a bracket or something to stop that from hitting against there when I drive. But other than that, that'll be fine as it is. So I'm also going to tidy up this rear flap or hatch for when I take the roof off in the summer. There's not much I can do to it really, just clean it up really, and maybe, don't know if I can try and take some of these dents out. These are where it's flat down and hit the tow bar. But I've actually got a set of these catches which I have to install on the back of the Land Rover, and then I'll get some of the chains which fit to the inside of the rear of the car and onto here, so it doesn't flap down. But that'll happen at a later stage, but I'm just going to clean it up now.